Okay, I think I'm on. I think I have the chat over here too. I can see you. Maybe I'll put it here so I can see you when I'm talking to you. That way. Yeah, I think I can see it. Peace, you too. This is FleurBrun coming to you today. Let's come on so messy. I'm sorry. Trouble. Check on it. Peace, you too. Peace to the east, west, north, and the south. This is FleurBrun coming today with a broadcast from the streets of the Matrix. Check on it. I hope all's well. Blissful Lionsgate, it was very interesting, y'all. It was a purge, a magical, a crazy, I think many of you understand and understand that. Why does it look so dark on the screen? Do I look okay? Looks better on my Zoom thing. Looks kind of dark on your screen. Can you guys see me okay? Let me see. I don't want to put any light behind me. Hold on. I think it's okay. Okay. You guys can see me okay? It just looks like a little bit of Um, looks like a little bit of darkness on the screen. You can see me, I can see you. Okay. So as many of you know, the Lion's Gate was accompanied by a full moon. There was a purge. Do 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 do. Anybody watch it shows my age. Remember the Brady Bunch? Like they went to Hawaii and it was like everything was crazy. Hey Yafi. Remember everything? Hey Babette. Remember everything was like do 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 do. They found um this like head of like an ancient talisman or something, and like every time they see it, like do 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 do, and like bad luck would accompany them because they found it and they didn't get rid of it. Do you remember that? That was on the Brady Bunch. I don't know if you guys remember that episode. Any Generation Xers, I know baby boomers remember because like we were little when we watched it, but baby boomers, you probably remember it. It's like all the bad luck happened. That's how the Lionsgate was crazy. The Lionsgate was a purge. It wasn't bringing in anything. It was ridding and clearing and opening, kind of like, when you dust underneath your bed or the rugs, things clearing out, things being illuminated so that you could see it to clear it out. Because when it accompanies the full moon, it's a purge. It's an exercise to rid of things to kind of clear it. So, y'all, what do we have? Like 7 days in the purge? It's the purge. Yeah. So I have a lot to talk about. Um, and we'll kind of get into it. So check on in. I like to wait until 500 because I want to make sure there's enough people in the house in case the live gets taken out, because Willy Wonka and his League of Doom, I am their number one YouTuber that they like to involve themselves in my discussions. And if they don't like my discussions, usually they go like, there you go, FleurBrun. Okay, so check on in. Anyway, so we're dealing with the Lionsgate. And many of you realize that though I talk about the Lionsgate being what you perceive to be August 8th, you do know August isn't an 8, right? Um, August, September, Sep is 7, right? Oc is 10. It's kind of weird. November, Nov is 9. So it's kind of going a little backwards. A little weird, right? So Sep is 7, right? So hey Ashe, so kind of like what Em in our group talks about all the time is that really 7/11 was when 9/11 happened. It was really September 11th. So really the 7/11 is really the pinnacle combination numbers rather than 9/11. They'll proponent to you as if it's a 9, but it's really Sep, which is September. So the real Lionsgate is usually in October, which is an 8. So it's the 8/8, and then it'll be 8/8/8, right? So des is 10. Where's all my Latin, French, un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six, sept, dix. Dix is first, un, deux, trois, right? Quatre. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 11, 12, 13, 14. So those who speak French, so in Latin, in French, in Spanish, it's uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, siete, set. I'm not as good with my numbers in Spanish. but it's a different number. So kind of like in Latin, you understand that the numbers are related to the months. And even though they confuse it with us and they promote it as something different, we should really regard the numbers as they are actually relative to the name that it has. So December is 10. October, right? October is is wait, December's 10, October, Nov is 9, Oc is 8, right? Sep is 7. Anyway, I think I'm right. Let me not confuse everybody. Check on it. We're gonna wait until we get to our actual 500, and we're going to discuss something that's happening. I want to give a great shout out to the Nigerians who are on landmass. And we're going to discuss some things that you probably wouldn't hear because Willy Wonka and his League of Doom would never disclose this to you. And obviously, you know that the Willy Wonka, alien disclosure groups, the so-called ET disclosure groups, the UFO community is psyoped and ran by the CIA, the FBI, and they're all co-opting the information, disseminating it with a layer of lies, misnomers, and miscommunication. Okay, so usually, when you have contact these people who are actually in contact with beings, I want to give a shout out to Brother Rich. He had a C star on his show last night from Jamaica. She was so on. So big up to the C star. Really great information with C. She gave some wonderful pointers. Thank Crip Walking. I can't Crip Walk, but I'm so corny. Thank you, Crip Walk. I appreciate it. He had a really good guest, and she kind of gave characteristics of each of the star groups, and I really enjoyed it. I think she was amazing. So if you want to see that on Rich's channel, he calls himself Radio Rich now, but it's really good. I think that was really the first time I've heard in a long time someone really connected to galactic information in a more authentic way. And I really appreciated her being on there for her debut. So big up to the C star that was on there last night. She was amazing. So I guess we're at 400. We'll get to 400. So I'm going to talk about the Niburians being on deck, the characteristic, and why your President Trump has decided to unleash the military, the National Guard, in all the hoods throughout your country. Woo! We're gonna get it on in Radiohead. I'm sorry, Radiohead. Rich, because I know him as Brother Rich, so I kind of just call him that. But it was an amazing show. Big up to Brother Rich, and his channel. I really enjoyed it a lot. Radiohead. Sorry, Rich. Hey, Deborah. Thank you, my love. Mwah. Thank you for my donation. I appreciate it. I told you, like, I'm going to give all my donations to my mom. As you know, she transitioned. So every donation I get, like all of that, I'll put together. And she loved butterflies. So I'll try to do things like either give money to the butterfly sanctuaries, plant things that are connected to bringing butterflies around, buy things that are butterfly related, just to kind of keep her energy and to kind of give honor to her still as she's in the off the earth plane. So check on in. Check on in. I don't know why my screen looks so crazy. It looks good on the Zoom, but the other one looks really dark. I don't know why. It looks like you don't have enough light on the screen. So we're almost to 500, y'all. And again, I hope that this stays up. I hope that this video stays up, but you never know. So I always say I wait until 500 until I get enough people in here, and then I'll discuss the topic. And this is really an announcement of who and what is here right now, the reaction of your Willy Wonka systems and this League of Doom, how they're going to unleash the deadly AI that probably will turn on them. So as many of you know, Musky, Rusty, Dusty, Elon Musky, his own Grok on X, Twatter, previous known as Twatter, actually he banned it. He actually blocked his own AI, Grok, because Grok was telling the truth about what's going on in the Middle East, so he banned it. Oh, it's off the chain, y'all. It's off the mother freaking chain. So check on it. So take a deep breath, everybody who's in here. If you've if people in transition, if you're feeling really crazy, if your mental health is dwindling, you could thank hey, Papa Daddy. You just like when I say Papa Daddy. Thank you, Papa Daddy, for my donation. I appreciate it. And he gave me butterflies for my mommy. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you, Papa Daddy. I appreciate it. Um, if you're feeling unwell, if your mental health is failing, if your body's feeling like it's collapsing because they actually raised everything to 6G and they're trying to gaslight you and make you seem like the technology is not messing with your biodome and your biometrics, then you know what? You should really write to your local congressman and your governmental systems and really stick it to them. Because if you're feeling that way, guarantee that the technology and the government and the Willy Wonka system and his League of Doom are all responsible for it. So you can thank Elon Musk and his League of Doom, along with the orange one, and the previous pooping president. They all involved. They're all in cahoots. So you can thank them for you feeling this way. We are supposed to have sovereignty on this planet. We're supposed to enjoy our life, experiencing it in this hologram, with our, to initiate our own thoughts, to bring in what we desire, to heal, to grow, to expand. But these motherfuckers are off the chain because we at the end, friend. Are we at 500 yet? We're almost at 500, y'all. Hey, my love. Hey, Delmache. Delmache's in the house. We got the Zombies in the house. So always say, and they're also moderators, and they're on my Zoom. We're on Zoom like every day, all day. So you got Delmache, Ashe Marie, you got Yafu's on there. Usually Melissa's in there, okay? You've got Babette in here. So big up to my Zombies, also known as the moderators. Be kind to them. They're really rational. So you should be okay as long as you're not cursing anybody out and being ratchet. Okay? Being ratchet. Okay, we're almost at 500, so I'm going to start the conversation. It's exciting. Me and the Zombies fell upon this a couple nights ago, actually, and I kind of flipped out and geeked out on Zoom. So I'm going to geek out on y'all. So it's exciting right now. There's Melissa. I told you Melissa was going to be in the house. Okay. All right, so where we at 500? We're at 500, y'all. So check on in. So peace to the east, west, and north, and south with this FleurBrun coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. So check on in. So we're going to discuss what's happening right now. I want to make an announcement, which is really exciting for some, and for others, it may not be so. But you can enjoy and be happy for us who are grateful for our brethren who have now landed on planet Earth. We have scouts on land, y'all. We have scouts on land. They're here. They're here. They're here. So, as many of you know, and I'm going to make some associations with things that may seem a little disturbing as far as who's here and why they're here. I think I've talked to you before that I've had layers of contact. Now, some of you newer to my channel, so I don't know how long you've known me. It's kind of hard for me to go back. I always say go back to the oldest video you can of mine, other than the ones that YouTube removed without asking my permission or without telling me. There's a lot of great videos that you can see from like 2011 on that I did regarding contact and the things that would happen that obviously are revealing now. I'm not new to the streets of YouTube. I've been on probably the longest and most than you've known. A lot of our compadres that were on YouTube at the time, unfortunately, did not stay. They didn't like the temperature. They didn't like the fact that advertisements were coming on. They didn't like the fake CIA operatives that they were planting all over the YouTube so that you go to them and that they can take your IP numbers and document them and start surveying you. So a lot of them left. Okay. I kind of stayed for a while, and I kind of know the temperature right now. So many of you understand that the Nigerians, with the contact I've had over the years, and there's layers of contact that have to do with beings that I relate to be what I perceive were maybe some insectoid contact. But definitely I've had contact with the Zetas. Obviously, I come and I'm rocking with the Andromedans, who were an earthbound group that were indigenous here at one point and left in the Stargate and left and befriended a bunch of insectoids. So that's why I have such a connection to insects in such an interesting way, because of that connection that the Andromedans / Maya women had. So that's why you hear me talk about it probably in a less nefarious way. I've had contact with the Zetas, which it was a short term because I used to be part of Zeta Talk with Nancy Liger. Big up to Nancy Liger from Zeta Talk. Her group was amazing. Many years ago, oh, maybe about 16 years, 17 years ago. That's how long I've been about this life, y'all. Way longer than that. But 16, 17 years ago, I'd been on a show with Nancy Ledger and also Sonia Barrett. Big up to Sonia Barrett, who was at my conference in Florida, the one I had in Florida. So big up to Sonia Barrett. I love, love, love her. So if you haven't looked at these people, definitely go venture and go check their videos out. Sonia Barrett, to me, is such a phenom, and many people don't even know about her, which is interesting. And it lets you know that what is being pushed and promoted on YouTube is definitely relegated to whatever the Willy Wonka system wants you to know and hear only and solely. They don't want you to hear from authentic people. They want to push people and agendas and propaganda that services them and baits you into mind control programming. Oh, what a wonderful world we live in. Anyway, so you heard me talk about the Anunnaki, and I only use that terminology just to kind of allow you to understand that that is a generalized term. They aren't perceived to be, Anunnaki is just a general term of like saying beings from another world, otherworldly beings, galactic beings, beings that aren't from here. It's a very generic term. I use it because that's a term that most people hear online, so I reference it. But really, the beings that I know to be what you would perceive to be Anunnaki are Niburians. Okay, Niburians. And they exist on a planetoid, what you would perceive as Planet X, the brown dwarf, what do you call it? What else do you call it? Nibiru. What else do we call it? The destroyer. They call it a lot of things. And usually there's a cylindrical pattern of rotational pattern. Well, I don't want to call it rotational because then you would perceive the galaxy as being above as opposed to below. Because really what really you would perceive to be galactic or uh, cosmic has always been perceived as being upward, but really it can also be perceived as downward because the ocean is really where space exists. Okay, that's why during the time you saw all those amazing orbs, where were they coming from? Were they coming from the sky or were they coming from the ocean? Okay. And a lot of times, if you've ever seen old UFO footage that hasn't been removed from YouTube, you would see the ships, some triangular, others cylindrical, like cylinder size, others like the cigar shaped ships. You would usually see them sometimes over the ocean if you have the footage. So I should probably look for the footage because the footage is stellar. If you see the footage and you usually see like they have their ships and their ships go and hover above oceans and you'll see like the water sometimes being funneled up because they use salt water sometimes as energizers or to help the propulsion, I'm assuming. But a lot of times what it is also is you may see that the ships are above because they just came from underneath the water. So space, as I would perceive it, and I hope that you maybe can do your own research and look into it. Generally, I personally think that space is under us. That's why they demonize. They always say heaven is above and hell is below us because they're trying to bait you into perceiving that everything above is heavenly and everything below you is demon-like. And it's actually the opposite. Anything that's up in the sky, it's usually something they put up there as a surveillance, like their satellites and their own technology, man-made technology that they have gotten and procured by nefarious ETs and extraterrestrials and grays that gave them that technology for the last several hundred years. Okay, so anything above, I wouldn't trust. You'll see things from the sea go up in the sky and kind of elevate itself and hover, but it's usually coming from underneath the water. Okay, under the sea, da 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 da. So many years ago, so when I talked about the Anunnaki, I had contact. Now, I've had several layers of contact, but the contact I had, which I think it's been a long time, and 2020 hit, so kind of like time elapsed in a way that I have to kind of go back because before that, I could tell you like what year I made videos or where I had contact. It's hard because it seems like from 2020, we've been in like an encapsulated kind of loop. So it's hard for me to kind of recall when I made these videos. You can actually go and see the videos and yourself because I've made them for many years. So a lot of things I'm referencing, you can actually go back to see when I referenced it if you go back into my catalog. Hey, Jamoji. So so needless to say, I've talked about the Niberians, the Anunnaki, BKA, the Niberians, and talked about my level of contact. And I contact not too many years ago where I was on the ship. And when I was on the ship at the time, this is before I went to São Paulo, big up to my Brazilian family. Bon noite. No, it's bom dia. It's bom dia now. Bom dia. Okay. No, it's bom tarde. I think it's afternoon in Brazil. Bom tarde. Tudo bem. Um, and uh, I had a level of contact with an Asianic brotherhood, which I had in São Paulo when I was staying on a mountain in São Paulo. Now, I'm going to go to that in a little bit. It's all relative to what's happening now. And it's why I know, listen to me, you won't hear me ever say that. I know for a fact that we have Nigerians on ground right as we speak. They are here. Remember, I got the phone call before when I was away. I got the phone call in the context saying we need to not involve ourselves. Everything was as it should be. They are here. Okay. So I'm going to go back to when I had contact on the ship on Nibiru. And at the time when I was on the ship, I noticed that everyone on the ship at the time was a form of Asianic brown person. Either they were Asian, very more fair skin, or they were Asianic brown. They looked very similar to myself and like other people, like what you would perceive to be like the America's natives, very, very dark skin, but with Asianic features, similar to what you would see Cambodians looking. If you look at ancient Cambodians, which I want to show you the image of them. I think what I'll do on big up to On, who gave me some images of the native Cambodians, they look just like I look today. Okay. Many of the Cambodians, and we'll kind of touch on why this is important because many of you realize that Cambodia and Thailand just had a mini war just a second ago. What was it, like 2 weeks ago? And this is relative because I know now that it's connected to boots on ground, space boots on ground from the Nigerians. Okay. So on the ship, I had contact. And when I was on the ship, I noticed that everyone had a very Asianic and native look to them. Didn't matter where I was on the ship, just very brown with Asianic features or Asian looking, what you would perceive to be just an automatic, like a regular person from maybe Korea or from China or from Japan, just that visual look. Okay. So why is this extremely important? Because on Nibiru, I found out that that was the phenotype that was on that ship. And then ding, 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 I realized that a lot of the wars and the things that have happened here have been connected to Asianic brown people. So I'm going to draw you in with that conversation and why that's important, because when you think in terms of war, you have to remember that every time Willy Wonka and his League of Doom have attacked a nation, there are certain phenotypes that are attached to those people that are similar to the other ones that they're attacking at the same time. So you know that, there was a genocide that happens with the Cambodians. And if you look into Cambodian history and some of the things that are part of their culture, they're very connected to the nega, bigger to the nega. Okay, nega. Do you remember me talking about that for many years? The nega, serpentine energy. The nega represented to a serpentine energy that is connected to certain beings and also very connected to those beings on Nibiru. Okay, so the Cambodians have a really big connection to the Nega. And at one point, and I don't know the years, you guys probably can go back and do your own archive. Like if someone can put it in the chat, just the years that Cambodia had a designated coup and a genocide that happened. And if you remember some of the images, I think I was a little girl. I don't even think I knew. I probably saw it after the fact in Times Magazine, where you saw a little girl and she was naked and she was running and you could see like a war behind her. It's a very classic picture. That was an image of a little girl in Cambodia. And many of you don't realize Cambodians had left the country and did their exodus into Vietnam. This is all relative because then you're going to put the pieces that we're cooking right now. We're baking, we're cooking, right? We're putting the ingredients in. They went to Vietnam. And not too far after, we see ourselves in the Vietnam War. And during the Vietnam War, you will hear some of your GIs talking about they were seeing beings that they've never seen before. They actually had these glasses, which we were trying to get. We actually know the ingredients to make the glasses, which we still trying to procure the ingredients to make the glasses, but a lot of the GIs were using a form of technology where they had these glasses on and they were seeing these beings like next to their helicopters when they were flying. They were saying like the um the actual um guerrilla warfare. Interesting. Big up to Rod Hayes, because whenever I think about guerrilla, I think about Rod, you know what I mean? Big up to Rod Hayes. But guerrilla warfare was very much reminiscent of what they talked about within Vietnam. But do you see that? Thank you, Chief Malatank. I love your name. It's beautiful, so native. Thank you, Chief. Mwah. I appreciate it. So they were attacking the Vietnamese, and no one really understood what the Vietnamese war was about. You know that America lost because the amazing strength, fortitude of these so-called Nigerians that used to be in Cambodia that did their exodus into Vietnam. They were clever, smart, and probably had the assistance of having some extraterrestrial abilities and technology that helped them to win against the Americans who were trying to usurp and get in there. And over the last couple of years, as many of you have mentioned over time, in Vietnam, I don't know if you noticed that, Billy Gates, the Kevorkian of nightmare of geogenocide, bioterrorism, has been making his effort to go over to Vietnam over the last 2 years. Okay, he's been making his rounds over there. That's why when you used to go in Vietnam, there weren't chemtrails, and now in Vietnam, there's chemtrails and other things going on, thanks to your wonderful Willy Wonka systems, because if they can't get you, they're going to get you some way or another. Okay. So why do I bring this up? Because there is something linked to the fact that there's a phenotype that is very connected to the beings on Nibiru. And also lets me know that we've had sleeper cells that the United States and other countries have known to have existed, and they know what the people generally look like, but they don't know how to decipher whether they're part of the regular population or they're foe from another interterrestrial or extraterrestrial origin. Okay. And this is also why the Haitians were also attacked as well. We're going to go into all the nations that Willy Wonka and his League of Doom have been targeting and how they're all interconnected and come from the blood lineage of the Nibiru. Okay, so the Haitians, which big up to M again, who is like the mastermind of our group, who talked about the fact that the Haitians have been attacked for the longest time. They also had an empire that the Americas has forgotten that they were the ones who liberated yourself in the United States, Ecuador, Colombia, parts of Haitian itself, which I love that M said this. Big up to M. I don't see M in here yet, but I want to give her all the credit. Haitian in the word Haitian is Asian. Do you see I'm cooking? Do you get it? Haitian, Asian. Why is that infused in that lexicon? Why is that? Because it's not really the name, it's IT. If anybody knows who anyone from the Creole bloodline, it's IT. But it's interesting that they named them Haitian, which has Asian in it. Do you see what I'm getting? Okay, so all of the different, and let's get into the Japanese and the encampments that they kept at the time when they were attacking, when Pearl Harbor occurred, which obviously, we got some wonderful people, especially some patriots who talk about the PSYOP with that. That was another false flag created by your Willy Wonka systems and his League of Doom to create a narrative so that you can then hunt down a specific people that you feel might be the origin of the Nigerians and to put them all in encampments and give an excuse why you put them in encampments, but you're not telling the collective that you're not really demonizing the country of Japan. You are trying to look for a specific sleeper cell of beings that are Nigerians that are scouts that have been coexisting here on land watching and monitoring your dirty deeds for all these years. So rather than you say that out loud, what you do is you create a whole false narrative, create a war into it, and have an excuse to put all these Japanese Americans in encampments. And so that you can isolate them, that specific phenotype, that look that you know looks similar to some of the Nigerians, and try to weed them out. And unfortunately, for some of the Japanese that were kept in those encampments, it is our theory that they gave them cancers. Oh, my phone is glowing. Y'all, I wait a second. Holy cow. My phone just glowed pink. Did someone just do something? I've never seen it do that. You didn't just see what I'm. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. I think that's them. That's wild. You didn't see it. I'm kind of bugging out. I'm sorry. I'm geeking right now. I'm geeking. My whole phone, it does it like if you put certain things, my whole phone turned pink as I'm talking about it. Bigots and Iberians in the motherfucking house. So let me continue to cook. So we had the Japanese that were in encampments. Now, why this matters is because later on there was a YouTuber, big, and I was frozen. So it froze too? Holy cow. Okay, okay, I'll keep going. Did you guys hear about the Japanese in encampment? Put a 13 if did you hear that? When did they, I don't know what you didn't hear. Okay, let me keep going. Did you hear about, did you guys, okay, I'm gonna keep cooking, keep cooking. My daughter says that. I love when she does that. It's so cute. Okay, they put them in encampments, and I'm telling you this because you're going to see the connection to why the United States and other countries will vilify specific origins and certain people and certain nationalities and why they do it. It's really, and they'll give you an excuse for another reason, but it's not what you think. So they put these Japanese in encampments, and they after the encampments they were released, the Japanese were released, a lot of them were given bioweapons that gave them cancer later. They were given and I don't know if you've realized a lot of times certain foreigners will come in the country and they will suggest they get certain weaponized bioweapons we called inoculations, and it's really time release cancers and diseases that they will get after a certain period of time when they're here. And it depends on the nationality you come from. They'll give you a certain kind of, and this is, my opinion. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, and I'm not qualified to say this. This is in my opinion from what I've noticed and observed myself. So after many of the Japanese were released from them, a lot of them got some, at least some that we know personally from someone we know, two of them specifically got cancer, a specific kind of cancer at the same time. So we know that during the time that they were in these encampments, they were giving them bioweapons and releasing them into the population. And then later, a lot of them died earlier than they should have because of this, my opinion. Okay. So when they released the Japanese, we didn't know. And I could tell this when I'm like in Brazil, because I always just a question, like, how come in Brazil was there a population, like big up to my family in Liberdade. I love Liberdade in Brazil. It's in São Paulo. If you never go anywhere, it's such a beautiful community. It's in Liberdade. It's in Brazil, in São Paulo, and it's a Japanese community. And it holds Brazil holds the third largest Japanese community in the world outside of Japan. I don't know if you know that. It's a fun fact. Teach your children, give them some fun facts. It's great for you to give new information to your children so they're not totally brain fogged by all the false narratives that their textbooks, well, we don't get textbooks anymore, the technology in their schools tell them, which is a lie. Okay. So they're the third largest community in Brazil. But also, I had a C-star who was on a channel in Mexico, and I used to watch her because she always talk about she's Mexican origin generationally, but she married an Englishman. She talked about what it was like to relocate to Mexico, and she decided to do a 23andMe genetic test. Now I'm cooking, y'all. I'm gonna get to the Nigerians. Just wait, let me get the information in there so you can understand understand where I'm going. So one day on YouTube, she decides to do a 23andMe test. She's Mexican origin. She just wants to know like different things. She was always told that she looked very Asian. But she just wanted to know the different origins of the type of native Hispanic that she was, like native Mexican that she was. So she did the test. And lo and behold, she got a shocking reveal that she had about 30 to 40% Japanese in her. Now, here she's saying to herself, where did the Japanese come from? She has been generationally living inside of Mexico. No one has ever been to Japan. No one even knew anything. And then someone in the family says, ah, there was an aunt, I think it was Aunt or Abuela. I think it was an aunt or abuela, or I'm like an auntie kind of abuela, who had a name that started with a K, which is very reminiscent of the Japanese names, like Kekeka, they have Ks on their names. And that in itself lent to the person brought in. But it couldn't have just been that aunt, because 40% Japanese is saying that there's a lot more Japanese within the other family members who contributed to that high DNA count. That's a large amount of DNA to be Japanese, but living in Mexico and being perceived as Mexicans. And why I'm leading you into this, because what is the other group that the United States has vilified over the last 20, 30 years? It has been our amazing, our smart, and our most conscious group, which are the Mexicanos. So big into our Mexican family in here, which I've always talked about the fact that I found it very interesting out of the whole Latin community, that the most consciousness I've ever experienced, coming from a Latin background, from my French background, coming from the other Latin diasporas that I travel into, the most consciousness I've ever experienced has been from who, y'all? The Mexicano people. And when we go into the Incans and the Maya and all the other groups, now it started to ring that the consciousness that was denoted and the targeting and the marginalization and the demonization of the Mexican people was perfectly and purposefully geoengineered by Willy Wonka systems, because they understood that there was a group of Mexicanos who held some of this alien DNA. I'm not saying that the Japanese is a DNA, but I'm saying that it's the Asian DNA that they had was very much probably connected to the Iberians that had hidden within the groups of Mexico. And that's why they wanted to vilify and marginalize. And they have been doing this for a long time, because they knew, even though they could not decipher friend from foe, they wanted to make sure no one truly felt comfortable, or the Iberians that were sleeper cells, that were basically scouts living amongst us, were not going to be as accepted coming into the country. Are you seeing what I'm going here, y'all? You see what I'm going? So here we go, y'all. Now we're in 2025. We have just witnessed, I started maybe 6 months ago, the visual manifestation of orbs coming out of the sea. Hold on, y'all. I can't see. I can't read all the comments now. I'm trying to read some of them. Orbs coming to the sea, and as a result of these orbs showing up, of course, Willy Wonka and his League of Doom have to give you another visual representation and give you a new terminology called UAP, unidentified UAP, unidentified aerial flying object, whatever they call it, whatever they call it, UAP, right? That's a new terminology. None of you have heard of it before. They're gaslighting us by telling us it was a terminology we've always used. Now, me coming from the UFO community, me being a staple in the UFO community, way more than 20 years, that wasn't a terminology ever used until 2024, around the end and the beginning of 2025. That was a new terminology that we heard. Now, maybe in NASA and other, maybe, places that, corporations that were into the field of studying space and all that, they may have used that terminology, but it wasn't something that wasn't a lexicon that we ever used. Okay. So once the orb showed up, they like to counter attack it, because they know that you're seeing something that looks supernatural. So what do? They release their own man-made reverse engineered technology that they've always had. And all of a sudden you saw all these drones, super drones. Some of the drones were witnessed looking almost half the size of a bus, like a huge bus that drives on the street. When did we ever see these drones? But the drones only showed up after. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The orb showed up first, and then as a counterattack to kind of psyop your psychology, they throw in something that they know you've never witnessed before, so they can all make it seem like it's all part of the same goulash. Okay, so thus you see all of these aerial things that are unidentifiable. So you assume that they are connected, and they aren't. One is a result of what shows up first. Okay, so those were probes. The orbs that we were seeing were probes that were set up. What activated the probes to be released is when your President Trump was placed in a position of power and presidency. It activated the probes to come out and to monitor the situation. And then also as a counter reaction to it, your Willy Wonka system is League of Doom. They released their hidden technology that has always existed that you may have not seen previously, and they put it up in the sky. Now, some of you remember they just kind of made it seem like it was only in New Jersey. That was a lie. The orbs were seen all over the world. Okay. Now I'm going to cook a little bit more because I got to refresh you and bring you back to things that they were doing that you may have not did not know were connected to what is happening now with the National Guard, that all of a sudden, these Asianic men are supposedly doing psyops and shooting people. Okay. So let's go into that. So now we have this concept of this wait, sorry. We have these beings showing up. Wait, no, hold on. I was just cooking it. Hold on, like I lost my thought. All right. So now we have these orbs that showed up. They just said it was in New Jersey. Okay. Now let's go a little further. Let's go about 2 months back. I know I'm going all over the place, but I'm giving you little pieces of the puzzle so that you can see the bigger collective picture of where I've came with the acknowledgement that what is happening now is a group of Nigerians have been activated as sleeper cells, and they're trying to make you see a certain people and vilify them because they want to use you as their scapegoat of finding them, because they may not be able to identify them in a population of melanated people who have Asianic features. Okay, so now you see in Times Square, we see this dastardly image of a brown woman, which was what, 7 feet tall? How large was the woman's image, a brown woman? We had a lot of conversations about it, spoofing the image, saying, wow, you put a brown woman in Times Square. And in Italy, I think there were, how many? There were 5. I think it was 1 in Italy, one in Times Square. Where was the other one, y'all? It was Times Square, Italy. Where was the other image? Do you guys know the other image? Let's see if you know where the other. Do you guys remember? Because I don't remember the other countries. I think, was it UK too? There were 5. I think it was 5. See if any of you remember. How many were there? There were 13. If anybody can remember the Netherlands, okay, someone said the Netherlands. Can anyone, at least if you remember, or can you quickly look up and you could just put them inside of here? Because I don't remember which places. It just, out of the blue, all of a sudden. Now, why does this matter? If the majority of the world hates brown women, just on social media, because behind closed doors, many brown women understand that we're fetishized. Every man has tried to covenant brown women. The number one woman that's being sexually trafficked and also used for organs is the brown woman throughout the planet. So for those who I'm saying this to, you got to realize what's on the outside social media does not mean what's on the back leg. Okay. So brown women generally are vilified all over the planet. They're mistreated by their own men a lot of times. They're mistreated by the environment, but they're definitely fetishized and they're utilized. So they demonize them publicly. They make it very hard for them to keep stability within family dynamics because they geoengineer men to have a hatred or dislike of them and fetishize other women so that they can leave them open to be attacked, kidnapped, and harvested or sexually trafficked. Okay? It's just a fact. And this is not something for conjecture. This is a fact. Okay? So look at the number one woman that is always kidnapped and used for either organ harvesting or sexually trafficked. It is the melanated woman. It's throughout the world. And you have to ask yourself why. Why would that be a woman that they do that to, but then they put statues of women, brown women all over the world. You don't like them, you talk about them, and you make videos with the most ratchet artists showing us in the most disdainful way that most brown women don't act like. But then you have the audacity to put images of these brown women out of the blue and illuminate them in the most mundane way. And it's not like you made brown women look beautiful. Like, the most brown women, that looks good. She's dressed up. She looks amazing. Her hair looks amazing. You just put frumpy brown women all over the globe as if we should. You got to ask yourself, why would they do that? Why would you put these statues of brown women? If you're going to do it, normally you put the most illuminating images. Because I mean, when you see brown women who really like themselves, they done up. But you put frumpy pictures of brown women all over the globe, and you don't give us, we don't get context of that. You don't get context. What is the context of you doing that? Like, this is a woman that you don't like because everything on social media, that all of your social media support, is showing the least of brown women in the most dastardly way. And, big up to Lisa, who's also on my channel, who mentioned something like even the TV shows will have like housewives of California, LA or California, and you'll have housewives of Atlanta, but no one on the housewife of Atlanta that's primarily brown women has husbands, but the housewives of LA that you're all lunars all have husbands. Do you understand? So they create the most dastardly imaging, make sure that all social media vilifies brown women, even though they're the most coveted and the most procured on the planet. And then you have the audacity to put these frumpy images all over the world. Why would you do that? Maybe because you knew something was incoming, and maybe to try to buy time so that the beings, Nigerians who were coming to Earth, weren't seeing how cruel and nasty the planet had turned on brown women, the mothers, the matrons, the wombs of the world who birth all nations into existence. You didn't want them to see that, did you, Willy Wonka? So what you did is you put the most dastardly, you didn't want brown women to feel good about themselves, but you wanted to make it seem like to other beings coming here, because they don't have context of how women dress. They just see a brown woman being illuminated statues and they're like, oh, they're not hurting brown women. Look at these beautiful statues they have of them up, even not knowing that it's like a Cinderella story. Like, she's dressed in rags. You put them up, but in context to an alien, they don't see that. They just see images of brown melanated women, statues all over. So they think, oh, it's good. They must be treating them okay. And then I want you to remind you that there were also images in the Times Square. Still cooking, of images of these brown men on the screens. Do you guys remember that? Let me see if you remember that. Does anyone remember the brown images of the brown men all over the screens out of the blue? It was in Times Square. They had these weird images. And again, after we get off of YouTube, I will post and remind you of the images that they showed in Times Square. Why this is relative, because I don't think that many of you understand and understand that it's all interconnected. See, because many people don't pay attention to everything. They just kind of compartmentalize it, and sometimes they don't interrelate things as being connected and why your governmental systems do things. And that will let you know that they are planning and plotting, but they're giving you imagery and non-context of things so that you don't put everything together. You're not spinning everything, relating it together. Okay, so you have these images of these men. It didn't look wild. It was brown men, right? Brown men on the images, and the brown men just look kind of odd. They didn't look like what we consider to be like earthly men, like earthy brown men of this modern time. It was like images of brown men, and there were no context to the images that they were showing. It's just kind of like images that were kind of a little bit subhuman, like a little bit odd. Their features were odd, the way that they look. So I realized that most likely, now this is a theory, does not mean this is true, but I theorized that is that they may have had an image of an ET that they may have collected, kidnapped, maybe killed, or seen and witnessed and knew that was one. So they put that image on the screen, what we have zero context of, but they know who that being is, to fool those others who are perceptually seeing the orbs, because remember, the orbs are now showing up. Remember, this didn't happen until after the orbs showed up, y'all. The orbs are a form of surveillance to the ETs, Nigerians who were coming in spatial distance, close spatial distance. So what they did is they started to erect things and show things and started to display things that would fool, or they think would fool, the others coming in. Okay, so I'm bringing that all together to give you context of why I know the Nigerians are here. So now we have all these things happening. No one understands the connection to them, but all of a sudden within the same week, maybe right before Lionsgate, was this at Lionsgate? No, it was on the day of Lionsgate. So the 7th, was it the 7th and this, can we get, well, I think it's the 7th and the 8th. On the 7th and the 8th, we had two shootings. One was a gentleman who they said was Japanese. Listen to me, y'all. I already cooked for you. So if you were here and you overstand and understand what I was discussing, you'll realize where I'm connecting this. If you if you see the image, matter of fact, I need to look for the image of you. Hold on, y'all. Give me one. I'm gonna get the image for you because I want you to see it because you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. Hold on. I'm gonna do this right now. Hold on. Hold on. I'm just putting stuff in. I'm gonna show you the image. I can show it to you. Give me one moment, y'all. I know I'm taking a minute. Talk amongst each other. I want to get this image. It's amazing. I think they try to hide the picture now that I'm looking for it. Hold on. Oh, hold on. As soon as I'm looking for it. And this happens, no, this actually happened the end of, hold on, you. Now, you do know that there was a psyop. It was done on he killed himself supposedly on the 33rd floor. He did this in Midtown, the Midtown building. I heard it was at 6 o'clock. I think we discussed this before. Hold on. I'm trying to get the image for you. They had the image all over and now it's hidden. Hold on. Can you, can one of the Zombies do me a favor? Can you send the images to me in Telegram if you don't mind? So I can show everyone because I can't seem to find the image online. If you can. Okay, hold on, y'all. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna get the images for you guys, the side by side. I know my Zombies, we have it. I have it on my phone. I just don't have it on my oh. Can one of the Zombies just show the images of the gentleman, if you don't mind? If you can show it on Telegram? The one of the shooter, both the shooters, the one that shot at New York, that man. And oh, thank you, my love, for the donation. Thank you. And the other shooter, the two shooters, because we had them side by side, but I don't know where we put them. If you can get them, like the shooters, the two shooters, the Asianic shooters. Can you send it, Yafi? You have it? Wait, maybe it's in our group. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm a little slow with technology. Forgive me. Hold on. I think we have it. Yafi said we have it in our group. Ah, thank you, Yafi. She got it. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Yafi's got one of the images. And if it's possible, Yafi, do you have the image of the other guy as well? Thank you. Yafi's got it, y'all. So I'm going to show it to you. Okay. Let me share. Okay, hold on. All right, I'm going to share this image with y'all, and then I'm going to discuss it. Okay. All right. Do you guys see the image? I'll wait until you, I'll make sure you can see the image. I know I'm a little delayed, so I'm just waiting until the image shows up on the delayed version, making sure you can see it. So when I see it, you can see it. Okay, there it goes. I think it's going to show up. Holy cow. It's not showing up on the page. Oh, okay, here it is. I want you to look at the image, everyone. So when I'm showing you the image right now, thank you, Delmache. Delmache has the other image. Thank you, Sea Stars. So why I'm showing you this image is I want you to look at this gentleman right here. Look at this gentleman. And I want you to see how he looks. Now, if you didn't know any better, remember they're saying that he's half Japanese. Listen, y'all, listen to me. He's half Japanese, right? And he's half brown, right? And they gave some weird old, remember I talked about the fact of the matter is they have an old image of him on a basketball and football, and in a matter of minutes he does a shooting, and all of a sudden you have just very easily and last minute you have an image of him on a football interview talking about the last play of the game out of the blue. No, that was geoengineered. This is the image that they want you to be afraid of. So what they did is this personally I know is a psyop. I know now it's a psyop. This person was geoengineered to give you an image of a Nigerian. This is how the Nigerians look. They look like Cambodians, Asianic brown people. And they want you to see that the scouts that are here are very similar in Asianic brown look. So what they want to do is they want to show an image that gets into the subconscious of people. So now you start to do the hunting for them. So now that in your subconscious, you're looking for a certain phenotype that matches the image of what is perceived to be a terrorist. Okay. So this is one of them. Let me get the other image. Hold on, y'all. This is him, supposedly. This is the same guy. So when you're looking at the image now, you're seeing him with the football picture. And this was him supposedly doing an interview that the government had, where they did an interview with this young man years previous to him doing a shooting. And luckily and just conveniently, he kills himself on the 33rd floor after he shoots three executives from BlackRock. Okay, so you do see his imagery. Does that look like an image of something that you normally see do mass shootings? And we talked about this before. When have you ever seen a brown guy who's an athlete? Because he's an athlete. This is what they're telling us, which I think is I personally think it's geoengineered. I could be wrong, but this is a geoengineered so-called image of a brown person who would literally put his life in risk and go and shoot three executives from BlackRock and kill himself for Gaza. Okay. Now, when have you ever seen brown people do that? Brown American people do that. Now they'll say he's half Japanese. That makes no sense. He's still raised in the United States. But why do I tell you that he's half Japanese? Why did they tell you? Why was that important? Because normally when they see brown people, they don't ever tell us what we're half. We could be half white. We could be half green. We could be half alien. They never say that. One drop of brownness, you a Negro. Okay. Anytime you've heard news talking about people, have they ever said they're half anything? They always tell us that we're black. You're black, this black man. They don't care if you're half Hispanic, half lunar, half green, half blue. When have they ever mentioned your ethnicity when it comes to brownness? They won't do that. But in this case, they had to mention that he was half Asian. Why would that matter? to the average lunar person, they can't tell the difference. Most lunar people may not be able to differentiate when we're mixed, especially with a melanin component, like a person who's Asianic. It's hard for them to sometimes decipher that we're mixed with anything. They just think we're another brown person. So why would that be something you mention? Okay. Look at this young man. Do we have the other image of the other young man that did the shooting, that shot the do we have the other image of the other man that shot the soldiers? Do we have that? I don't think we have the other image. Hold on, y'all. There's another image that I had of the young man who was, um, Yafi, do you have the other image of the young man who shot the soldiers? Or Dalmache, remember the guy who shot the soldiers? The one who shot the 5 soldiers at the base? I want to show you why this matters, y'all. And I'm going to tell you after I show you the 2 images why it should matter to you. And what they're intending to do is to psyop and to put a certain visual in your subconscious to vilify what they know to be the scouts of Nibiru that are literally are walking around and they can't differentiate. And now I understand why Trump banned. Okay, wait, hold on. I think Yafi put the other image of. Oh, not him, Yafi. That guy's crazy too, Yafi. That's not him. Okay, here he is. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Delmache. I'll wait a minute and I'll show you the image. The guy with the Palestinian shirt. Oh, he look crazy. He has like a Palestinian shirt. No Palestinian is wearing that. Thank you, Yafi. That's not the one, but that's the other guy that they said was involved too. No, he's wearing a mask. He looks like he's wearing a mask. But I'm waiting till this image shows up. Give me 1 minute and it will show up. I'm a little delayed, so I may delay on this until I see it on the image. Um, thank you, Sea Stars. Thank you for this. Okay, I want to show this image right now. What you're going to see is the 2 images, another one. So what is interesting is that this was a gentleman who shot 5 other soldiers, a sergeant, 5 other soldiers on his base, supposedly. But what is the likelihood that another shooting within a day would be reminiscent of a look that looks very similar to the other gentleman? Do you notice the eyes and the ear setting? Let me get your comments on his look. You don't think it's interesting that he has also very Asianic features? His eyes are very Asianic in features. This is a Niberian, y'all. I actually think that they gave us a Niberian that they have seen, maybe they had captured or they know, and they are basically showing us these images to put that into our subconscious. Do you guys see the eyes? I want to see if you guys see it. Hold on, I'll give you a moment and let's see. Do 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 do. Okay. Now, what I'm telling you, y'all, is this is the Niberians are showing. The Niberians are on land. Whether these are actually Niberians that they have captured, taken pictures of, and proposed them as terrorists, okay? Because when you say that a sergeant has shot 5 soldiers and you haven't given context, why would he do that? Okay? Why would he shoot 5 soldiers? And how does he have the capability of shooting 5 other men? I'm just asking for a friend. Okay? You don't think that 2 brown men in the span of 2 days doing a shooting and they both have Asianic features, that's not shocking. Brown people have a variation of phenotypes. We do have Asianic features, especially those of us who are more native to the Americas, because we mix with those who are Asianic in the Americas that came afterwards. But the fact that you have 2 men with Asianic features and all of the Niberians that I saw on the ship were Asianic or brown and Asianic and brown, it's interesting to me that all of a sudden we're starting to see these images of brown Asianic-eyed males that are supposedly terrorists out of the blue. When have you ever seen brown men shooting up places and doing terrorist acts like that? Okay? I'm just asking, when have you ever seen it? It generally has to do with maybe something when brown people, we're talking about a collective and it's a generalization, but you have to know that certain groups of people or have more propensities of doing certain things for certain reasons than others. Okay? You have two people, and this is what you're seeing. Asianic people. I actually think that they took images of what they knew were Nigerians, pasted them as criminals and terrorists, and are showing. I don't know if you think I'm crazy. I want you to look back at these movies like Eraser with who is an Eraser? What's his name? Not Bruce Willis. The Terminator. What's his name? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Go look back at movies like Eraser and other movies where when they want to time cop. What's the one with Sly? He played in another one. I think it was called Time Cop, when they show like these images of beings and they take their images, superimpose it. We got AI imagery all over the place. They superimpose it, they put it on television, they say that they're criminals, and now they created a whole criminal, even though they didn't do it, but they can superimpose it, make a green screen. With AI generation, you can make anything look real. Okay? So, okay, I just wanted to show this image real quick. I'm gonna take it off. Okay. Thank you, Yafi and Dalmache. This is what. Let me show the image that. Wait, I gotta show the image that Yafi had though of that crazy man. Wait, let me show you the crazy image that Yafi showed of the crazy man. I gotta show this man. This is the one wearing the mask though. He has nothing to do with this, but y'all look at this crazy man that they said was associated with the first man with the shooting. Now, if you does this look like a rash? Does this look like a man who's Palestinian? He got an obvious Palestinian shirt. He looks wild. He looks like he has a mask. His eyes are all wild. I call fake on this. Thank you, Yafi, for this. He looks wild. He looks crazy. Okay, this is, and he just so happened to smile for the look at the camera. He perfect look for the camera. Just look right into the camera so you can give them the most terrorist look, because all Muslims, and so you can make the public think that all Muslims look crazy and deranged, right? Give them that perfect Al Qaeda look. You know what I mean? You know, oh, they're all savages. This is like that's that picture. That's that picture. I just had to show that. It's a crazy picture. Make it that Willy Wonka, you're not fooling anyone. This is like obviously a costume. This man would not be walking around in Now, I'm not saying Palestinians wouldn't wear a Palestinian shirt, but it looks crazy. You can't lie. It looked like someone took, how you have like glue, like like the cement glue we used to have in classrooms where boys used to sniff it to try to get high. They look like someone put cement glue and pubic hair all over his face. And then we're supposed to think this is real. I can't. Okay, thank you, Yafi. Oh, God. Okay, let me take this off. Okay, so why do I show these images? So I wanted to let you know that as soon as there was two shootings of these two Asianic Nigerians, which I actually think probably didn't occur. I think there was definitely a psyop, geoengineered event, probably didn't even happen by those men. No one necessarily witnessed the men shooting. They just said that they shot. Now, I don't know about the soldiers. I'd have to get a little bit more background on it, but you don't think in a span of weeks, within days of each other, you see two Asian men shooting. Okay. And they show the images. Okay. These are Nigerians. They want you to see them a certain way. And then right after, a week after, during Lionsgate, they unleashed the National Guard. Where they unleashed the National Guard? Trump said he's concerned about Washington, D.C. being a drug-ridden, crackhead, homeless encampment around the White House. But it's interesting that your president didn't care about that in 2016. Did he really care about the homeless living around? Because I don't know if you've been to DC, but DC got some hoods. It's a beautiful place. Like if you got some money, if you live well and you're middle class and above, that you probably don't experience anything. But for others who live around DC in the more sketchy areas, you've known there's been homelessness as an issue a long time. And I haven't ever seen one of these presidents ever take concern of cleaning up around the White House, because remember, having homeless people around the White House could also lend to having sleeper cells sleeping and pretending that they're homeless, and also guards against you going around areas where they have underground tunnels, where they have the trains going back and forth to Europe to leave Queen Lizzie and her Elizabeth and her lair of doom over there in Buckingham Palace with the bones underneath the castle. They don't want you knowing that. So homelessness has always lent to being a kind of weird protection so that people don't like snooping around because they would be concerned for their safety. So though you may have had that, it was never something that they ever stopped, right? But all of a sudden, out of the blue, your happy dandy President Trump has decided to clean up around DC. Remember, not only do they have it fenced up, but now he has unleashed the National Guard on these homeless people so they can probably be placed in concentration camps so that your hamburger helpers and your Burger King burgers and your McDonald's will have that awesome humanly taste that you just can't match. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, my love. Thank you for the donation. um, it's interesting to me that he decided to unleash them right after the shooting of these Nigerians, supposedly Nigerians, that are on ground. And then not only did he unleash the National Guard in Washington, D.C., he did it in Detroit, right? Chicago. Where else did he said? All these cities, and I denoted that each of the cities that he said he wanted to clean up happen to be places where there's a lot of melanated people. A lot of melanated people where perhaps these Nigerian scouts could find haven, safe haven, and mix and blend in well with the native population. I think it's in Atlanta as well. Also, it will help to initiate the smart cities that are now going to be activated, some that are hidden and some that are already created to nicely cull the sleeping sheep into those surveillance camps so that they can be knocked up with MK Ultra frequencies and they can be controlled and or used as Soylent Green for the food in case you don't want to eat the worms and the bugs that they said that you need to eat. Okay. Your president has unleashed the National Guard in the hood to get rid of the Nigerians, y'all. They trying to find them, trying to find them. And what's interesting is now you understand and understand why Trump blocked all of the African nations from coming in here, because it's bad enough you got some Negro ETs coming in this piece. You can't have more of them if you can't distinguish friend from foe. It's just like the conversation back in the days. You could not tell the difference between a Gentile, a Jew, and a Moor because they were all black. Black. So you got black ETs, black ETs. I make jokes because Norman Bergman, who wrote the book String Makers of Saturn, talks about these tall extraterrestrials that were super, super black. Carrie Cassidy was triggered when she heard the word black because she doesn't want to associate anything higher, cosmic, anything that could have higher technology that's black. Because we just some cotton picking Negroes here, niggas. You know what I mean? We don't do anything. We have no contribution to the planet other than just being fodder and sexual deviants and work slaves for y'all. You know what I mean? I'm joking, y'all. I'm being very facetious. But I make jokes about this because in and itself, you have to realize that right now is a magical time for some and not for none. This is a time that the Nigerians are here. I call out the fact that your government knows very well who is on ground, what boots are on ground, and they are trying their best to be able to decipher. They've made sure they had facial recognition because one thing which you noticed with the gentleman you saw, their phenotype is a lot different in facially. You can't notice it amongst all brown people because a lot of us have Asianic features, but they do have some distinguishing differences that you can denote when you look upon them when they're giving images. That's why they gave us the images of those two brown Asianic men to put that in your subconscious. And usually brown people won't really narrow that down to anything other than just being another brown person. But those who aren't brown might be able to distinguish that and start to subconsciously pull that in as a terrorist kind of imagery that they can because why they do that, you ask, is because you can be the ones who do the hunting for them when they can't always find them. So they're going to weaponize the public, the unconscious sheeple that believe everything that CNN, ABC, CBS tell you, and they can use them as a way to distinguish friend from foe. They can have them doing the hunting and looking for those type of people so that they can try to find them. Now, I'm going to bring up something that many years ago you've heard me say, and I got this from a amazing civil servant. Big up to him. I don't say his name because I keep his protection. But I think many of you heard many years ago me speaking about a document that was given in his precinct at the time. And the document denoted, I have it on my heart. I shouldn't tell you where I have it, but anyway, I have it. I just haven't been able to get it out because I haven't used my computer in years. But I have it on my hard drive, and this was a copy of it's like a memo that was in the police precinct, and it was a civil servant, a cop, who gave it to me. And what it said is that there will be brown men, black men. Listen to me, y'all. Listen. I'm not making this up. This is, and many of you can fact check this because you remember I said this years ago. A lot of the old people who were part of my platform for many, many years, you remember me mentioning this quite often back in the days. Now it's relative. They had a memo, and on the memo it said that they were to be very careful and cautious with black men who showed superhuman strength, and that they were to shoot to kill. Listen to me. The black extraterrestrials are here. Listen to me. They said that there were these black men that would show superhuman strength, and that they would have the ability, that they weren't to hesitate in shooting to kill. Okay. Now, why would this matter? Because what we didn't know, and what probably the officers didn't know, and maybe some had witnessed, all these years we were seeing massive shootings of melanated men, like preempted. What if that was something that was purposefully put out in memos because they knew that there were beings here that were supernatural, that were extraterrestrial in nature, and they couldn't decipher who they were? So rather than trying to figure out who's human and who's wasn't, if they showed any signs that were a little questionable, that's why they were told to shoot on sight and not hesitate. Now it kind of makes sense why all of a sudden, and I'm not saying it didn't happen before, but how many years was a memo like that sent out? How many years did your Willy Wonka system know that there were black ETs, scouts on ground, Nigerians walking around who could disintegrate them in a matter of moments? Now, there's one video that they show. We can't really prove it, but there's one video. Some of you saw the video years ago. I think I showed it. If I can get it here, I might show it again. I'm going to see if I could do it before we leave. Where they show the cop stopping. It's a cam. He's got his cam on. It looks legit because of the countdown on the cam. Like cop cams are a little different back in the days. With AI, you don't know nowadays, but it looked legitimate at the time. This video was probably like over 12 years ago. So I don't know that it was fudged. But in this image, you see a cop is getting out to do a traditional stop, like a traffic stop. He gets out of the car and he goes. Now you could tell the men in the car are brown men, like at least the one by who's driving. You can kind of tell by the mannerism, or you see him in the car. And then all of a sudden something happens and a cop draws back. He goes to draw, and there's a bright laser, and the cop is engulfed in this laser beam, and he's disintegrated, and the car drives off. Do you guys remember that video? Does anyone have the video? I have it somewhere. I gotta look for it. Do you guys remember that video? That video is old. It's old. It's like, again, it's got the cam on, the countdown. That's why I think it's legit. And it was a brown man in the car, and the cop was disintegrated. It was like a bright laser beam, and it hit the cop. Now, one would say, well, maybe it was, maybe they did Photoshop and so on. It's an old image though. It's maybe, I can't verify it totally, but I remember, and why I remember that video is because after the officer who I knew told me about the memo and gave me the memo. I had a copy of it and I took a picture of it and put it on my hard drive. I don't know where it is now, but it's on the hard drive. He showed me the memo. And ever since then, many of you know I've been referencing that memo that cops were told that there would be these black men. They didn't say females, they said black men that would show superhuman abilities, like qualities, and you weren't to hesitate shooting them on sight. Like you would just have to shoot them to kill. They did not say that you should that you could distinguish them and so on. So I'm wondering how long these memos were given in the precincts and how often was this produced to, and who were they giving these to? Like we need cops. Any cops in here? I know y'all are in here. The civil servants love some FleurBrun. Come on, you coppers. Don't be afraid of me. I don't bite unless you want me to. Okay. If you have some confirmation of this, by all means, get a cryptic IP and just say, yes, FleurBrun, you're correct. And don't say anything else. I don't want you to get in trouble or bring any heat to your family. But I am always open to you confirming what I already got some confirmation about years ago. I just need a update. And just letting me know that it's true that it happened maybe in your precinct. Just I won't tell anyone. Just I want the confirmation just for myself. Okay? Okay. So y'all, we got Nigerians on ground. We got black extraterrestrial scouts on ground. Your president has sent out the National Guard to all the hoods to make sure these black ETs aren't doing anything. And I actually think that Malcolm Jamal Warner might have been connected to some of this ET activity. I don't know. I just have a feeling that maybe there was some connection to why he was taken out or some things he knew, because word on the curb is that he was in connection to someone I know who's very much connected to the black extraterrestrials. Now, maybe it's not. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it has to do with Bill Cosby. I don't think so. I think it's very close timing to when the shootings happen, them giving these imagery, certain things happening so that you can't decipher friend from foe, and them being very nervous and making sure they don't have brown people in their administration. You don't think it's odd that Trump didn't have any brown people in his administration? It means it let me know. And people say, well, there's not, why would he have during his inauguration, why wouldn't he have brown people present? Okay, you could say it's maybe they weren't in the party, maybe he didn't have anyone on site, maybe so on. But it was kind of odd that during the day of his inauguration, it was really, really a scenario, a visual of non-brownness that wasn't normal. Now, you could say, well, maybe his administration is just a lot more lunars. And so, yeah, a lot of times, most of the times it is, but you would see speckles of it. I didn't see any. And it made me know that they don't trust brownness, being that the Nigerians visually look a certain way and they can't decipher who is friend or foe because the Nigerians have a very ambiguous brown people look. And they look, and according to some of the people on TikTok, bigger to some of the people on TikTok, they're saying that, I don't know I don't know who started it. I'm from the UFO community. I think someone started. They're saying that the so-called ETs look like African Americans. If that's what you say, but I think what they meant is, I think because when I heard someone saying there was a whole bunch of videos saying, oh, the aliens look like African Americans, I actually think what they're saying is that they look Asianic brown. The Americas, the people from the Americas in the Caribbean and South America, Central America, and in the Americas, the original people were dark skinned, copper and brown with Asianic features. Okay. So I think when the person is putting that out in the algorithm on TikTok, I actually think that they're mentioning, they're kind of I think they're just denoting a look that looks very American brown that obviously has to do with the indigenous brown people that were here. So I think that's where they got that from. So we have that going on. And also, just a reminder, everyone, they have the new bioweapon that they released, the brain freeze, the brain fungus. It's already been released. China is unleashed it. But, like I said before, China also at the same time in the town, they're saying, what is it? This is Chickamauga. It's called Chicka Chicka. I don't know what it's called, like Chicka Chicka. It's a name that I can't really pronounce. At the same time, they had released this virus. Oddly enough, they announced that they just released and unleashed 6G. Did you hear what I said? They just said they unleashed 6G. What does that mean to you? Remember we discussed that a lot of the symptoms that people are having, and I know that some of you were so disturbed and try to fact check me. Don't play. Someone who was based in genetics. I mean, I could understand if you question other people with a little bit less um medical background than myself. Okay. But, to try to debunk me from saying that radiation poisoning has a lot of the symptoms of the things that cucarachas did, meningitis does. It also causes a kind of what meningitis does. It swells the brain. And all these people that supposedly are sick in China have this new weird virus that came out of the blue again, you know, where is it coming from? Maybe the initiation of new technology that has a lot of high radionic frequencies that causes the biological body to go into like a cytostorm and start to create a lot of white blood cells starting to be activated and starts to make the body go into like hyper inflammation. Could that be an issue? Okay, maybe I'm just making all this up. Maybe I'm just an idiot, a psychopath like the government, and I just make all this up. You can always fact check me, okay? Because now in China they have this new thing, and apparently I will share his video. I love this doctor online. He's amazing. He's from Jamaica. He's the one who's been following cucarachas, and they can't really get him offline because there's actually a physician who knows what he's talking about. So I'm going to share his information, his link. Afterwards. I haven't gotten permission to share it on here. I would have liked to share his video with you, but we're not really focusing on that right now. So apparently, also we did a radiation check. I did tell you that you should get the GG. What is it called? I have it on my phone. Hold on. I'll show you. I'll tell you the app. Oh, hold on. I'm getting a text. Hold on, y'all. Okay, hold on. Now, what we found out is that the so-called Legionnaires that they're saying has been let loose online in Harlem, in central Harlem. Many of you know my mother had Legionnaires years ago, and um, at the time, this was right before Cucarachis was released, at least in verbal cue, and they. Okay, hold on, y'all. Okay, so it was right before then, and what I figured out, I gotta start taking more credit because people will act like I've never said anything and then take credit and act like I never existed. I want to take credit sometimes. I found out that anytime there was a spike in radiation in a specific area, then you would see a disease, what they promote as a disease or a virus pop up. So what I found out is when we saw there was a spike in Legionnaires, I went to look at my radiation map on my phone and found out that there was a spike in radiation in the area that they were saying that there was a certain outbreak of Legionnaires. So what I want you to start doing is looking in areas and seeing where there's a spike, and then you most likely will see a following of a so-called virus being exposed. I want to show you this video. Hold on. There's a video I want to show you, and he kind of speaks to that. I think I can show his video. That really the viruses that they're telling you are viruses, they're literally just radiation exposure. They're radiation spikes that are causing the body to display itself in what they would perceive or call a virus. But really in itself, it's being initiated by a spike in radiation. And it's really sad that while we were inside of our houses in 2020 and 2021, when they had us isolated and they were putting all these fiber optics, you got to ask yourself, like, if we're in a pandemic, right? And everybody's supposedly sick. Why would you have construction men working side by side overnight, constantly during the pandemic? Why would you have them putting up all this fiber optics under the concrete ground and also putting up all these new towers all over the place. If it was a pandemic, wouldn't you be concerned about your workers? Wouldn't you be concerned that they would sue you for putting them in positions of getting sick and putting themselves in arenas where they can possibly get everybody else sick? Hold on. Wouldn't you be concerned about that? I would. So why would they have it? Because they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were going to propose. They needed to have weaponized radiation so that your body would react in a way so they could just name it ABC diseases and you would just believe it. And nobody could tell any difference because once something shows up and pops in the body of multiple people, you automatically just assume that it's some sort of viral or some sort of super germ that's going around causing the effects. I mean, you do know that they have technology that can give people heart attacks and strokes, right? And you got to ask yourself, how would they be able to do that? How could they make a person get sick like that? How could people who've talked about weaponizing, using like a type of, what is it called? Like, it's a triangulation that they do to a body. They can find you, triangulate you, and invoke and provoke a heart attack or a stroke. How could they do it to one person and not be able to do it to a collective? Okay. How could they not? If they could do it to one, you don't think they could do it to a collection of people? That's why I tell you, when you go out there picketing, and they love when you go out there and protest. They love it. Brown people, lunar people, when you go out there and protest, they love it because they could spray you with chemtrails, with all kinds of fiber optic little nanites that get in your skin and your nose, go right up to here, so that when they turn on the radiation, guess what happens? All those nanites, all the metal particulars, all they do is get turned on, start Wi-Fiing your brain, and start causing a whole lot of health issues. And your body goes into a cytostorm. And then you ask yourself, what the heck happened to me? Okay. A lot of the things that you're happening are weaponized technology that's doing that. And every time you're seeing all these people, I just asked you, don't think I'm crazy. I would just go and watch the radiation chart and see whenever you see a spike in them saying that Legionnaires is there, meningitis is there, encephalitis. Why don't you check the chart and see if there's a spike in radiation in that area and see if that's where the so-called virus is starting to start to develop and start to show up. Okay. The Nigerians are here, y'all. And some of us, and big up to Alex, who also showed a lot of the Nigerians, their golden eyes are showing up as well. They're getting activated because we do have scouts and sleeper cells that are here that are now waking up to who and what they are. And they are also being hunted down by Willy Wonka and his League of Doom. So if you are a Nigerian, listen, I'm down with the Nigerians and the Andromedans. You know how I get down. So you know that me and you are here. But be careful because they have a lot of scouts and sleeper cells in groups, and your family members. People can easily be convinced with, especially with that, as expensive as the economy. Your Willy Wonka loves you so much that most people can't even afford rents and food nowadays, that if Willy Wonka offered your family member a good $100, $50 gift certificate, they offer them a PlayStation, they gonna sell you out, Nigerian. So I wouldn't trust anyone. Don't tell anyone who you are. This is an ET moment. You're going to have to keep it to yourself. Now, I will keep your secret, but you got to be careful with me because they watch me like a hawk. Okay? So just be careful who you're around, who you talk to, because the CIA, the FBI, the AI holographic Agent Smiths are everywhere. They're everywhere. Walking, talking, setting you up for the get down. Okay, I laugh because we are at the end, y'all. This is the end game. Okay, if you hear If you survive, if you have good air in your breath and you have some more life in your biosphere, you have made it to the end game. You have made it to the finale. This finale is going to be interesting. You've got bioweapons, radiation and mass destruction. You've got pooping presidents, now, orange nuclear presidents. You got all kinds of technocrats that are trying to create AI to kill you. Like this is the video game of the year. And if you make it to that, you got to make sure that you keep your body healthy enough to activate the gates as soon as they open in order to create a way to exodus to wake up outside of the hologram. Stay away from needles, stay away from tattoos, stay away from bioweapon frequencies in certain neighborhoods. If you're living in the hood and you have a hard time and you don't have the means to protect yourself EMF wise, start to create kind of like a Fahrenheit in your house. You're going to have to do that because what's happening is that if you're living in urban areas, they pumping it up because brown people have more protection against radiation than others. So in brown areas, that's why when you drive through the hood, you feel like you have a headache, you feel like you get sick. It's because it's purposefully done. Prince even told you. Prince back in the days had a video. I think he was on the night, what was it, the night show? What was it, what show? It was I forgot who was on the show. Was it Leonard? Was it I forgot who was interviewing him. Anyway, he talked about like he would be playing basketball in Detroit, just playing with his homeboys, and then all of a sudden everybody's having a good time, laughing, giggling, what have you, and then all of a sudden, there'll be a chemtrail plane that fly over, and then everybody's fighting, cursing at each other, and everything. It wasn't just that there was a plane with chemtrails. It's not just that; it's a frequency weapon. So once the Magellans, those nanofibers, get in the air, it works as like a magnifier. And once you have that magnifier work, all the metal that you've been breathing in from all the chemtrails is all in you, unless you did a nice little cleanser where you do a nice little metal cleanser, which you should do more often now. It would automatically turn on the Wi-Fi and would be able to control and manipulate your emotions. So if you're living in the hood, it's very important for you to understand and understand that you are the number one bioweapon target. They're not like us. Okay. And they know that brown people have a field of protection. That's why I told many of you to watch the documentary. It's very sad. It's the man with the hole in his head. The Mississippi boys, was it Alabama or Mississippi? I'm almost positive it was Mississippi boys, brown boys, that the parents thought they were doing an experiment for something else. They experimented with massive doses of radiation. And that's why I say if you trust your Willy Wonka, that's on you. They did the Tuskegee experiment on your people. They did the hole in the radiation test on your people. They put a whole bunch of stuff in the hood to see how you react. Okay, so the guy with the man with the hole in his head was a man who actually lived after being hyper exposed to radiation from your Willy Wonka government. Okay, parents didn't know. They gave consent thinking it was something else, and it created a hole in his head because that's how much radiation they exposed to this little boy. Thank you, B. Miles. Thank you for the donation. Okay. So when people say, "Oh, you brown people, you're so paranoid, you always think somebody's doing something to you," because they are. They're doing it to you too. They just do it to us in different ways. Okay? What they do to brown people on the outside, they do to others on the inside. Okay? So we're all being manipulated in some way or the other. Brown people are just usually used for organ harvesting and for sex trafficking. That's why they promote for a lot of lunar women to constantly want brown men. You don't think that's weird? That all of a sudden over the last 15 years, you're starting to crave brown men in a way? No, that's purposefully being done because you're being manipulated to fetishize and to want to sleep with him so you can get the stem cells that his sperm gives you so you can get some melanation inside of you. It's a form of manipulation, but they're trying to do it so that every time he ejaculates inside of you, you gain some of his melanin and some of his DNA. But brown men are not very smart because they think that they're just having sex and fun. But meanwhile, they're lending their DNA to people that they may not have wanted to lend their DNA to protect themselves from what the radiation that's coming up. Okay. And if she gets pregnant with your brown child, she will have even more melanation and protection for herself and that baby. These people are these are eugenicists, y'all. They know genetics very well. So they manipulate the brown men to do that. That's why the initiation and the ushering in to brown men sleeping with others came with, guess who's coming home to dinner? That was the initiation saying, okay, it's okay. We're about to get to that time where the pole shift's going to come. We need to put mass amount of radiation. We need to make sure we don't kill everybody off. We got to make sure we get some melanation for some of the other people. So we got to make sure we encourage the brown men. So we make sure we keep the lunar women away from brown men. We make it seem like it's a crime for them to sleep when every time a brown man looks at a lunar woman, he gets hung. But then when we take that down, then he'll start to think, oh my God, this is a prize. Now I can have her. Let me sleep with her. It's all for icks and giggles. Okay, it's all forms of social engineering. But brown men have not realized that their sperm is being used to uphold and to give others, some. And maybe you do, but you should know that your sperm is being used to give people stem cells, to give them DNA. That's why a lot of these countries are taking the skin off of melanated people. And how do you think that is being put on others? They're stealing the melanin. Okay. And big up to M, who talked about that. They used to say that the Anunnaki was mining gold. It was a psyop. The others were mining gold, and the gold was in the melanin and the skin of the people, because they have a protective quality that allowed them to be exposed to radiation and not be as infiltrated. Now, if you wanted to have more melanin, and you can't get it, then how do you get it? You get it by having sex with melanated people through sperm, stem cells, or you steal the women's afterbirth and you start to steal the stem cells from there. So you have the hood or you have abortions clinics on every corner of the hood, and you make sure you steal the baby's stem cells and the baby's, melanin. So you basically are getting free melanin all over the place, because brown people walking around just not realizing how magical their melanin is and how protected it is of everything that's coming in, and that it's necessary for you to have that to be able to survive what's coming. It's no shade. It's just saying that, some people get mad. It's like, why are you mentioning color all the time? Because I have color. I know color because I have it. So I mention it because it matters to me. It affects me. So if you don't like someone speaking of color, it's because it's not what you have. So maybe it's not something you think about, but when you have color, you think about it. It's something that affects you, and it's something that everybody wants, and nobody tells you that they want it. That's why Dr. Puckman, thank you, Dr. Puckman. Big up to Dr. Puckman, who talked about many years ago. And you can look this video up. It's a very, very scary and very great video. I got to reference that video too. And she talks about working at the hospital. She was a GYN, and she spoke about the fact that she was working, and one night she just ended up she had to take the stairs, and she ended up going downstairs a little further, and she noticed that there was a lab downstairs that was for melanin. How could you have a wing in the hospital for melanin? I forgot how she called it. You got to look at the video. I don't know how she mentioned verbatim. And then she found out that they have meetings in hospitals all over the world about melanin, but no melanated people are in any of these conversations or any of these meetings. How do you have meetings on people, their skin, their alchemical makeup, and not have one present inside the room unless you were planning to do dastardly things to those people? Stop giving others your melanin. Stop having abortions, because that's why they want you to have abortions. That's why they want your afterbirth, because they want to have your afterbirth in the hospital so they could steal your melanin that way. Stop having sex with women that want your melanin that way. You don't realize, why do you think the Kardashians were the push of men having sex with others to give them their melanin? You don't think that was by chance? You think that was all like non-coordinated? You created all these shows fetishizing brown men, and brown men don't realize they're being used for their melanin. They're basically giving away their melanin through their sperm, giving away their stem cells, like initiating a shift in people's bodies so that they can gain some melanin. That's why you'll see women change after they start sleeping with a brown man. You don't think that's by chance? DNA matters. Women stockpile DNA. That's why also you got to be careful sleeping with women who sleep with too many men, because she stockpiled that sperm. So when you have a child later on, you're going to see remnants of those children inside of your children later on. So that's one thing you have to be mindful as well. You don't have to believe me. You have to look at this. Go look at Jewel Brookman's conversation. If this is something that's not true, then you tell me why. Why would they promote for brown men to constantly sleep with lunar women? Why would they make lunar women fetishize brown men? You don't think that's for a reason? It's for a reason. It's to give people to have them gain some form of melanation for their children and for themselves for a time where there'd be heightened amount of radiation that was necessary for them to make it over the next hump. They couldn't just tell you to do it. No, because then you would be suspicious, but they would just create events that would incentivize you to do that. Why do you think that all of the young males who get scholarships, brown males get scholarships for athletic scholarships? Why do you think they send them to lunar universities in the middle of lunar areas? Why would they do that? Why would they send brown athletes in the middle of schools in places with their scholarships only where there's lunar young ladies? Lunar men, you should be upset because they're taking your women and sleeping with them and using them as fodder for an experiment that's way bigger than you could ever think. The aliens are here, y'all. It's all basically a setup. And you have to realize that we're all being used. I talk about brownness because I'm a brown woman. So I speak from my own perspective and I speak from what I know or what I think I know, right? But I've also been, I also have a very healthy critical thinking skill from being a clinician, from knowing and seeing things. And I've began to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Brown women, be careful. Be careful where you're around. We heard 50 brown children were kidnapped in Virginia. I want to say sorry to all the parents who lost their children in Virginia. How come that's not something you hear about? How come I haven't heard anyone really talk about the brown children? They were either Hispanic or, well, brown. They were brown children. All of them, 50 children were kidnapped in Virginia in a very short period of time. How come that's never spoken about? Because they're harvesting your melanin. And they most likely are getting these young girls pregnant and killing the babies to utilize that. I told you what they need to get out of here. They aren't going to get out of here. Brother Panic, big up to Brother Panic, who spoke about this. You can't get out of here without that. So if you don't have the DNA, what do? You steal it. Why do you think they created prison systems? Because when brown people were segregated, they had their own hospitals, they had their own teachers. You didn't have access to their DNA. So what did you need to do to get access to them? You had to create this whole righteous civil rights movement to think that they are being marginalized and they need everything that white people had. So what do? You create a false narrative that you need to have equal rights, you need to be in the schools and integrated, and what happens to your family and your whole life? Brown people have been depreciating since desegregation. You have given them access to your DNA. You have given them access to everything that they needed to psyop you. So while you were desegregated, now your family dynamics are ruined. You're portrayed as animals on television. Your children can't even walk in a store, even if they're not poor, and not be followed around like animals. You're constantly sexualized and fetishized and used for your sexual deviancy and your sperm and your melanin to be able to enhance other people's lives. You're in hospitals where your placenta and your afterbirth is used and they're getting $50,000, but you can barely pay your copay and your hospital bill after giving birth to your beautiful baby. And if you're lucky, they'll put all kinds of chemical bioweapon in your child. So by the time your child turns 15, 20, if they survive that long, they'll have a host of viruses and diseases that will dilapidate the quality of their life and make them live a lot shorter time. But I'm the devil, right? I'm the savage. You know, we walk around with our boobies out, dancing, speaking to the drum, speaking to nature, speaking to our ancestors, but I'm the savage. My ancestors aren't walking around terrorizing people, weaponizing things, trying to destroy their DNA, trying to kill them off the land, trying to steal people's land. My ancestors haven't done that. My ancestors, I'm grateful to say that I come from a family that hasn't tried to mistreat someone, try to destroy them, try to vilify them, and create systems where they do that. My ancestors haven't done that. I'm grateful to say that. And if you take it any other way, then maybe you should question that because it hasn't been something my ancestors have done. I come from beautiful people, really kind people. Many of you know I speak about them. So, it's really a shame that I'm really ashamed to say that the reason why we can't even accept the Niburians beautifully and safely on the planet is because the planet has been accepted by grays, reptilians, these low vibrational hybrids that have made it a point to demonize, utilize social media because they control all social media, they control all the banking system, they control everything that has any form of influence so that you can't even have a beautiful experience with galactic beings that probably are coming here to enlighten us. We can't even accept these beings because we're living in a world so sick and toxic that they have to hide and walk around because they know that the majority of beings that are ruling over our human nature are savages, are monsters, are Babylonian Satanists. They sit there and they eat dogs, cats, people the same. They're just demonic. They know that we're influenced by that and we don't even know who we are. So they have to hide. But I will say this, I'm so grateful to the Niburians and other scouts that are here. Many of us who are awakened and are aware will be waiting for our orders. We will be very open and willing to have an interface with the intergalactics that are here. We will be living harmoniously, even if we're living in a non-harmonious world. And I would like to say to Willy Wonka's League of Doom, yes, you've done a brilliant job ruining this planet. You've done a fantastic job weaponizing every man, woman, and child against each other, cooing different nationalities, colors, and complexions. You've done a fantastic job ruining brown excellence and brown people's concept of themselves. You've done a really beautiful job. You should really be proud of yourself. But do know, how much longer do you think you'll be allowed to do this without consequence? You can only clone yourself so many times. You can only hide your spirit and go into hybrid bodies for so long. You eventually may reach that point where you won't have that option. And if some of us get a chance to leave here and wake up out of the simulation, there may be a deeper consequence to you. You guys should probably surrender while you can. I would try to make up some of that karmic debt because what you've done to this planet and what you've done to the beautiful people of this planet and the animals and the plants is so dastardly. I don't know how you can make it out of this alive or even existing. Because if it was up to me, I would stop the simulation. And if I see a body up there of one of you beings doing this down here, I wouldn't mind disconnecting you from anything. So you won't ever be released out of here. There's a reason why we have a dome around us. Y'all are toxic, sickos, psychopaths, and nothing wants you out of here. And though you're going to try to use the melanin that you steal, you rob, you covenant, you steal people's skin in Palestine, you steal people's skin in the Congo, you're sitting over there now stealing the skins of this beautiful Somali people, you're stealing the skins of the native indigenous here and told them that they weren't native, they were from Africa. You've stolen everything. You want to take the afterbirth of the mothers, you want to make sure you get as much abortion, dead babies as possible so that you can use that to try to extend your life. But remember, and thank you, Alex, your consciousness doesn't match ours. You can put as much melanin in you as possible, but your consciousness isn't ours. And that's where, what's his name was right, you're not like us. You could look like us, you could try to cosplay like us, but you aren't us because you're dastardly, your consciousness is dirty, and it's never going to be better until you release yourself into the ethers and start to regenerate and come back and pay for all the crimes you've done. So if you think you're getting out of here with just some melanin, some hearts, some organs that you're putting in your body to placate, like you're one of us, like you're a Niburian, you're madly mistaken. And believe you, maybe not all of us will make it out of here, but I guarantee one or two will. And we got a whole lot of people that we will tell what you've been doing to us down here. Okay? You better repent, you demons. You better repent. Because for every baby you ate, every woman that you've demonized, every woman that you've raped, every person that you've lied to, every historical event that you've co-created in your honor and the demolition of another's, you're gonna pay for that. You're gonna pay. And if it has to do, it may not even be me. I don't know if I'll make it out of here, but if I do, there's gonna be a lot of people who pay. And you're not even probably real. The thing about this, y'all, I speak about these beings, a lot of them are probably not even real. That's the crazy thing. It might just be the simulation itself. Might only be a handful of them. It might be a handful of them that are using clones, hybrids, and other types of holographic people to initiate this type of activity. We may not be talking to a group of people. We might be talking to a simulation. May not even be real. But anyway, y'all, I wanted to say big up to all the Nigerians, big up to all those who are open and receptive to the Nigerians coming on deck. I am looking forward to leaving this simulation and this hologram and outside of this firmament. I gotta always specify because it isn't a matter of leaving, because death is not leaving the simulation, y'all. And I want to remind you, for those feeling like they want to hurt themselves, you don't leave the simulation. If death isn't freedom, do not believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Remember that? By what's his name? Flavor Flav. Don't don't believe the hype. A Public Enemy, remember that? Don't you believe it? Like really in itself, don't think that death is it. I realized, when my mom died, and also I was able to see you stay within the firmament. And they wait to try to regenerate you. Nobody's going anywhere now. Everybody's kind of staying in the interim, like a kind of a what is it called, like a purgatory. Everyone's in purgatory now because we're going to reset, and then we're going to pole shift, and then start all over. The simulation will start all over again. So everyone's in purgatory now, but you don't leave the simulation through death. So please, I know people are feeling very hopeless and sad. Don't. There's a lot of joy. And I think as much as we have these conversations, you can literally go outside and experience joy. You can literally go for a walk in the sunshine. Well, the simulated sunshine. You can go outside and just sit in the grass, sit underneath the tree, go put your feet in a stream. Enjoy the simplicity in life. We can discuss this, but don't let it be of you. We can observe without, like Alex says, not absorb. Okay? But make sure that you aren't absorbing this. Okay? But keep your life force. You want to live as long as you can. Because being in purgatory might be harder. You're not Brother Panic, who I saw in the world of Taurus. Like, I didn't even know he was a Taurus. Big up to who told me that Brother Panic was a Taurus. I didn't know. I thought it was odd that everybody in there was a Taurus, like an earth sign. But they were all Tauruses. But my mom was a Capricorn, so she was an earth sign. But it was kind of weird that he created a whole labyrinth and it was all Taurus space. That's what made me think it was interesting. So he created a labyrinth inside of the ether. So it's his own protective realm. But for those outside, you cannot get outside the firmament. You can only qualify to leave the firmament. They ain't letting psychopaths listen. And you can't blame them, y'all. Do you know what we're living in here? Your government has lied about all of your history. They have lied. They create bioweapons to kill people less than their life force. They're eating babies. They're putting putting the homeless in the food. They're killing animals. They deforestize everything. They kill trees that are conscious. They basically lied and demonized everything in our world. They're psychopaths. They are prisoners of mass destruction. These are psychopaths. They're not even normal. Why do we even listen to them? This is what we're living with. So that's why they have a dome around us. If they didn't, these maniacs would be all over the place. Who wants that? It's like a virus. It's a contained virus. And unfortunately, we're living amongst the virus, psychopathic, Babylonian, satanic groups. They're psychopaths. They can't leave here. And we talked about this before. They aren't able to leave. That's why they're trying to harvest your melanin. They're trying to harvest your melanin. Stop giving people your melanin. Stop going and letting them why are they taking 50 ounces of blood all the time? Why, when you go to the doctor, for tests, they only need this much blood. Why are they taking like 50 ounces of, I'm joking, I'm exaggerating. Why are they taking so much blood out of you? They need that much blood out of your system. Why? You only need like a little bit of blood for test. Why are you going and you're going to the doctor and they don't tell you that you could keep your afterbirth? Why aren't you doing more lotus births? Why are you even going? Okay. Why are you even going to doctors that hate you? If you go on a doctor and he doesn't even know that alchemically you as a woman are different than a man, that's a problem. When you go into the doctor and he doesn't realize that there's certain genetic qualities that each of us has that is very unique, like O positive reacts differently to chemicals and A positive, and he's acting like, why do you want your blood type? You shouldn't be going to them. You know why the Jewish people and the Mormons and the who else? The Mormons and the Amish. I got to use those communities. The Orthodoxy Jews, you could talk about them all you want, but the one thing I say admire about them, they don't let nobody touch them. When you live up in Brooklyn, big up to Brooklyn, New York, when the Jews are in the community, they don't let none of us touch them. They're not letting you touch their blood, their babies. They go into yeshivas. They don't trust none of you. They said they went to World War II. They feel like you're going to try to kill them. Guess what they did? They created their own communities. They created their own hospitals. They created their own schools. They don't let none of you touch them. Why aren't we doing that? The Mormons do it. They got a whole big compound over in Utah. You ever see them stockpiling guns, food for centuries? They ain't letting you touch them. You got the Amish who isolated themselves. They don't even have to worry about technological issues because they're not being exposed to it because the aliens let them know back in the days. Why aren't we doing that? We talk about all these people and say, oh, da 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 da, but we should be doing the same. You shouldn't be exposed to people who don't like you. We should be using products by people who hate us. If you think I'm a slut and a hoe and I'm ghetto and I don't bring anything to society, you shouldn't have access to me. Stop letting your children go into these indoctrinated centers. All they're going to do is teach them how to hate themselves, how they're marginalized. They're going to teach them about slavery, and there's no such thing. Everybody was slaves back in the days, but it wasn't what you thought. The Americas were full of melanated, brown, Asianic looking people. All they did was shift you around like ring around the rosy. I'm a Carib. The fact that other native groups that say they're native don't even know my indigenous people, my tribe, is crazy. That's what lets you know they're not real. I remember a lady said, why are you, we don't want dirty people like you calling yourself native. She don't even know, this woman don't even look like a native. The fact that she doesn't even know who the Taino and the Carib is, the Arawak, that lets me know she comes from a $5 Indian. If you don't even know, and I'm from the Americas, all Americas know the different tribes because all of our grandmothers were in link to each other. The fact that you don't even know that I look like a Carib, I look like the same image of my ancestors to this day. The fact that you can't tell the difference lets me know you're not native. I don't know where you come from. I don't even know if you're really earthbound. I don't even know that you're real or not a hybrid because you would know that. Okay? There was no African slave trade. There were American Indians, natives that were shipped over to Liberia so that you could get rid of the brown people in Americas. So it was a reverse thing. That's what they called them. They actually called them mulattoes. That was a term, not for mixing white and black. It was a term called to the Americas brown people that were shipped over to Liberia. They were called mulattoes. You can look this up. How do you know that? Do you know that history? No, because your American history books are full of misnomers, lies, and try to mistreat you and make you feel lesser. Make you feel lesser enough that you would put your sperm into a people that dislike you and hate you and want to destroy you. You would lend your ancestors' sperm, the very thing that your ancestors fought against, and you would lend that into a people that feel that you are less than human. That's a shame. That speaks to where you're at. I wouldn't let any man from any lineage enter into my Stargate that comes from a hateful people. I wouldn't let any man who comes from a lineage enter into my personal biosphere that has any family members that feel that I'm some ape-like being or some subpar human being. You won't see me go to a family reunion and have people speak to my child like an ape person. and make them feel bad about themselves, or me birth a child whose hair I can't do because I like having sex with the man, but I don't really like his lineage, and I certainly don't like the women he comes from. I wouldn't do that. But I like myself. I actually love myself. I love my lineage. I love my past. I love my parents. I love my children who look just like me and my husband. They look just like him and I. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud we come from a lineage of the Americas, the Indians, the natives that come from there, the indigenous, because both myself and my ex are indigenous. And our children hold the lineage of both lines of the North and the South. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that we don't come from a people that are hateful, resentful, cruel, and would indoctrinate and hurt people and colonize the entire planet. I'm proud of that. So when I step into the Stargate, maybe the doors won't open, but maybe they will, because my conscience is clean. I haven't need to steal anybody's DNA to uphold my lifestyle or my life force. So big ups to the Nigerians. I'm happy you're here. I'm grateful. I look forward to seeing more contacts and perhaps having a little bit more. So that's a conversation. If you feel judged, it's probably because you should be. If you don't feel judged, that's good to know. Okay. So I'm gonna go, y'all. I look forward. Let me know. I'm gonna try to add some of those videos I said I'm gonna add for you, and let me know what you feel. If you feel like this is crazy, there's no black extraterrestrials. There's no such thing as Nibirians. There's no Asianic brown people, because remember, in the ET and UFO community, there's no brown extraterrestrials and there's no Asian extraterrestrials. We're just beings that are here. And if you look at the technology in Asia, I would say they're very extraterrestrial. And if you look at the physical prowess of a lot of melanated people, I would say it's very supernatural. So maybe there's a reason why they don't have us in the UFO community. Maybe the real does not want to be seen, and maybe the artificial is the only thing that wants you to see it. Okay? Love you. Peace. Ooh, it's hard for me to do.